Hello everyone and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan and thanks so much for coming to my channel. So this is sort of a part 2 on that Fungus Among Us video the other day where I found some white patches on one white cloud and a more disturbing lesion fungus on another, as well as after taking out a few plants and veil, I found just more black beard algae than I really had ever had before in this tank or any other. And so the two things discombobulated me, and the resultant video kind of portrays that. I was a bit all over the place, slightly panicky, but these are my babies, this is my hobby, and it was a first for me, especially in this new fish room, to have either of those occurrences. So anyway, my cherry was broken. I'm no longer a virgin to fish disease and algae. It had to happen. It will happen to everyone in this hobby. And so here's what I've done and what I'm doing. First of all, I started doing massive water changes right off the bat, because when I tested the water, the nitrates were flirting with 40 parts per million, red on the API, and that's way out of line. And so right off the bat, I surmised that's what was contributing, if not outright causing, both of those problems. What I think happened vis-a-vis the fungus is that this wood in here, even though it's been in here about a half a year, it's called spike wood. I never really had a term for it until I saw online someone selling the same exact thing. It looks like manzanilla wood, but it has lots of these little spikes. So what I think happened is the white clouds, which technically aren't from an ecosystem like this, the more appropriate would be like just smoother rocks and less plants, and certainly not a ton of driftwood. Well, that's not how it is in here. So I think one of these beautiful white clouds, the male with the gnarly lesion and fungus, was startled and got scratched by the spike wood, and then because the nitrates were high, he got an infection, and that was that. And so I believe also the black beard algae, all algae is never going to be foreign if you keep your nitrates high. So I had to immediately treat that, and so that was easy. And so I started doing massive water changes every morning. I took about 40–50% and filled it with dechlorinated water. And then I started to add Flourish XL, which, while not technically an algicide, everybody in the hobby knows it can work as such, especially on tough algae like this. And it's been a few days, and some of these sticks were as bad as this one, like that, and it's gone. So maybe it's working. I also got 3 of these. This is the reticulated Siamese algae eater, a bit rarer version of the classic Siamese algae eater. But as I explained in another video, my local fish shop said that they don't get as big, and that his reports are they're actually even better at eating algae, so there you see 2 of them. And I have seen them on those sticks going to town on that algae, so that, coupled with the Flourish XL and water changes, are what's working so far in this tank. And then one other thing. I had a couple options, really there's quite a few, but I narrowed it down to 3, and you're looking at 2 of them. Fritz Marison, or API's Fin and Body Cure, and then General Cure would be the other one. And all of those have good reputations, but some of them do different things to the tank as a consequence of using them. So I kind of stayed away from the Marison because it will harm beneficial bacteria, and while clearly there's a lot of surface area, so I would probably survive that, or the beneficial bacteria would survive this antibiotic, Maricin. It is only a few months old tank, and I didn't want my filter and all that to just be wiped out by treatment. So I went with API's Fin and Body Cure. It's a little less intense, but it still should treat the fungus. And Everyday Fish Keeping dude on YouTube was a big proponent of that solution. So I've added an air stone because the box says you should, and I think that was wise counsel, because these white clouds rarely go to the top for oxygen, and while they're not gaping and gasping, that is unusual behavior. So I'm glad I have added extra bubbles to oxygenate the water. So I'm going to do the treatment as the box suggests. 3 packets, because this is 30 gallons, every 24 hours with a water change in between, for a total of 4 doses. And then I'm going to clean the, I'm going to add new carbon to the Awaze canister filter down there, as well as to this little supplemental Awaze. I think that's the 60. It's basically just being used as a supplemental filter. And that carbon will take all the old kind of spent water and medication out of the system, and by then I'm hoping that I will have saved these white clouds. Honestly, not to be cruel, but if it would have been easier, I might have just removed the white cloud that was sick and euthanized him, and then just heavied up on the water changes to get rid of the nitrates and treat the black beard algae. But good luck netting a fish when you've got a hardscape as robust as this one. So despite those flaws, I mean, the tank still looks pretty terrific. The Sterigen repens, look at that carpet. That's what you want from that plant there. Not leggy, stringing up, but heavy, intense, toxic green, no algae there. Then I've got some stems here, a Rotala, and I forget what that one's called. Maybe it's a Ludwigia. Those are cuttings from other tanks, capturing the reds and the browns from the substrate. Hygrophila pinnifada, which has red and green in it. So working with that motif, my favorite plant. And then in the back, I have all that jungle veil. Glad to mention that, because Vallisneria is very sensitive to hard medication, including the Flourish XL. It's, without getting into the science, it's a plant that is more closer to algae than a lot of plants, and so it can take a hit and begin melting back quickly if you go hard with some of the medications I've talked about. And I didn't want that to happen either, but I have a bunch of tiger veil or leopard Vallisneria in back, which sort of forms a sweep this way, because that's where the outflow comes from up there, down, pushes the water this way, and then it's supplemented by the little outtake from that filter to create a circular flow around this long tank, a 32-gallon long. So all in all, I mean, I scaped this for success, and this black beard algae just wasn't going to cut it. And, you know, worst case scenario, I'll pull that piece of spike wood for the reasons I outlined, in addition to this algae, if I can't solve for it. And I'll put something else in, like true manzanita wood, or maybe not so much wood at all because of the white clouds and what I've learned. So there's a more thoughtful follow-up to this tank, what's going on in it, and I hope you could appreciate that. If you have any comments or questions, I would love to hear from you, but I will also, you know, undoubtedly update what's gone down, what happened right, what happened wrong, what I still need to do, what I've learned, all that good stuff, so that you can have this video at your disposal when this stuff happens to you. All right, so that's that. Ciao for now. Wish me luck.